At this point, I'd like to introduce you to Jordan Jace. Jordan is an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. The PSL is an intergenerational group of people that are working to help build a party that can unite the U.S. working class. Jordan?
Yeah. All right. Can y'all hear me? I'm going to try it like this. Oh, wow. Thank you. Perfect. Awesome. All right. All ready. So I just want to start with a chant. It's going to go, what's the solution? NATO dissolution. All right. So let's do it 3 times. What's the solution?
NATO dissolution.
What's the solution?
NATO dissolution.
What's the solution?
NATO dissolution.
All right, thank you all. Peace. My name is Jordan. I'm an organizer with the PSL. We are here in the heartland of U.S. imperialism. What is our task? And I apologize, I said U.S. imperialism. I mean world imperialism. So what is our task now that Russia has invaded the Ukraine? We want the war to end. We want to stop this war. To do that, we have to get to the roots, and NATO is the root. Think about it. All these racist, old cowboy and Indian films describing savage Native American tribes attacking. Do we cheer back, or do we take like 1 second to think? To understand that this is really westward expansion. That this is the doctrine of manifest destiny that was creating these films. I'm not asking this question to play a historical guessing game. We need to bring clarity to the situation now. Hindsight is 2020, so think about it. After the 9/11, would you have cheered for the war on terror? Or would you have demanded the U.S. out of the Middle East?
US out of the Middle East.
The terrible war should not blind us to what our role is. Biden falsely said in the State of the Union, quote, "Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II." End quote. The truth is, NATO has always been an offensive alliance, far from aiming for peace and stability in Europe. NATO was formed in 1949 to group together the main imperialist powers of the world in preparation for a war of annihilation against the USSR. Instead of fighting each other for colonies and spheres of influence, like in World War I and World War II, NATO was designed to ensure that in a third world war, the major capitalist powers would fight together to destroy the socialist countries. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, NATO has set its sights on Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, and Libya, coordinating brutal wars that cause tremendous death and suffering. So let me be clear, we do not support the Russian invasion, but we reserve our strongest condemnation for the US government, which rejected Russia's legitimate security claims in the region with total intransigence that they knew could provoke such a war. This is the consequence of decades of US and NATO bullying Russia. The only contribution that our government can make is to pledge that NATO will not expand any further. That will immediately lead to Russians and Ukrainians negotiating, ending the war and having peace. And that is our task here. We must demand that. Do working people of America want NATO expansion? Do the ruling class of America ask us what we think of NATO expansion? Never. We demand no sanctions on the Russian people. Sanctions are economic warfare. Ukrainians are suffering in the war. Russians are suffering by collective punishment imposed by the US and Western European countries. But the rulers won't suffer. It's the working people of Russia, like the working people here, who will suffer. So we have to say no to this xenophobic scapegoating. We have to say no to collective punishment. All the xenophobic hysteria is created to divert us. We want relief and housing security. We want childcare support. We want health safety during the ongoing pandemic. War with Russia is not going to provide that. A lot of people, a lot of the speakers have identified systems throughout, and I just wanted to name that system. The system is capitalism. So I'd like to end with 4 points, which is our way out of this terrible war. The first, understanding absolutely, again with absolute clarity, that NATO provoked this crisis. Secondly, that there is no solution without the dissolution of NATO. That also means that Russia will demilitarize. The third, upholding the UN Charter, because countries need to be protected against war. Socialism is the answer. The fall of socialism has brought capitalist competition, war, and disaster. Only socialism, cooperation among nations, will end war. All right, peace and thank you all.